So Ohio State has a 5-star defensive lineman that it took from the edge and moved on the interior, and he was supposed to be one of its best players this year. And that was true in the first game where he played almost 40 snaps against Texas. But in the game since, I think he's gone over 15 snaps once, and that's Edric Houston. Tywone Malone has replaced him in the starting lineup. Edric had a couple of bad penalties. And Stefan, we're going to start with you because you asked Ryan Day about what is going on there. What did the answer he gave, and then kind of break it down, what you think is happening right now, why Edric Houston has gone from a no doubt one guy we're not worried about in this defense to now it's like, okay, this is a rotational player.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear that Edric's kind of balancing a million things right now, and he is, despite how big of a role he had on last year's team, still a young player who's trying to move into a bigger role, kind of see the consistency that it takes to play at that high of a level as a starter for Ohio State, and that's a lot for someone his age to have to handle, and he's kind of going through the motions of that. And the sign behind us says fight. The sign over here says tough love, and that's
maybe we should have changed and gone that way, but we're here now.
Yeah, we didn't really think about that ahead of time. Listen, tough love. That's like Ryan Day's message was one of like care and compassion in terms of like we want to help Edric. He talked about family and friends and support systems and everything that's around Edric for him to be a good player, and he is one of the guys on his team who has one of the better personalities on his team, right? Like he is very often featured in the videos that they do, and at when we did media days in the playoffs, so there was the Rose Bowl or the Cotton Bowl, he was always on camera, like super vibrant guy, right? And they're putting everything around him to help him as he kind of goes through this process of, he had high expectations for himself. We all had high expectations. Everyone had high expectations for Edric Houston, and he's not living up to that right now, and that's a lot for him to have to carry. So there was a care and compassion part of Ryan Day of like, we will do everything we can to help you, and then there was a tough love part of it of like, but the moment he referred to it as the scarlet line of like getting onto the field, like whatever's going on, it's done. Like when the game starts, when the whistle blows, like whatever's going on is done, and that's maybe something that I don't want to put words in his mouth, but based on what Ryan Day was saying, maybe that's something that Edric's kind of learning and going through right now. And Ryan Day used the example of there was a veteran player going into the Washington game that was sick all week, and he went out there and he didn't complain, and they said that he graded out a champion. He didn't name the player, but the guy graded out a champion. I'm going to guess it was someone on defense because
I think it was Kenyatta Jackson.
If you couldn't hear the whispers, he's
I whispered it because I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, Kenyatta Jackson's the name he said. Whatever. But that's the thing of like, whether it's physical or mental, whatever's going on, once you step onto the field, like there is an expectation, and that's where the tough love aspect of this comes in, and that's kind of what it seems like Edric is kind of learning as he goes right now, because again, yes, he is super talented. Yes, he was very good last year. He's still a sophomore who's starting for the first time, and that's a lot to have to learn in terms of the consistency of what it takes play in and play out to do that at this place. This is not an easy place to do things at, and he's kind of learning that right now.
That's a ceiling conversation, Andrew. But we've seen Tywone Malone now. He's looked very quality. Caden McDonald is a monster, apparently, and Will Smith has been quality as well. If this is a ceiling conversation with Edric, are we still happy with what we've seen from the defensive tackle room through 4 games? Because if our biggest question was about depth, and that isn't necessarily a question at this point.
I think you're feeling okay about it. I don't know if you're over the moon like you thought you might be at this point. I don't know if you're at the point of, this is just Tyleek and Ty. Like this is that level. Like I don't know if you're there. Like Caden McDonald's been very, 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 very good. And then you've got, Malone in there. We've got the rotation options to talk about like you were talking about. So I think you're in a decent spot with your defensive line rotation, and obviously I think adding Edric raises your ceiling like you're talking about, because your floor you feel okay about. Your floor you feel that there's a baseline there now. An injury or two could really kind of change things here. So obviously staying healthy is paramount, and kind of developing some guys down the roster. Like what happens if you need Jason Moore to be your third defensive tackle at one point? Like is he ready for that role? Because hey, maybe Edric's not that starter level. He's the rotational guy that you thought. So you need guys to develop. You need to stay healthy, but the floor is okay. It's just with Edric, I think, one of the things that he said the word consistency, and I think there's big moments and there's little moments. We see the big moments. Like, we see Saturdays. We don't watch practice. In fact, if somebody were to try to watch a college practice, I'm pretty sure they would have you arrested. And that's not Ohio State. That's everywhere in the country, right? So we don't get to see the day-to-day meetings, what's going on for Larry Johnson and Eddrick Houston. We don't get to see any of that stuff. So, I think with
hello, Tim May.
Hello, Tim May. I think as it relates to Edric, there is the day-to-day stuff that I'm sure, they would want to see more. He mentioned meeting rooms. He mentioned, practices. He mentioned walkthroughs. He mentioned all those things. We were in Seattle, and Steven, you looked at me and said, did Edric play? And I went, yeah, remember? He got the 15-yard penalty. Like, we see those moments, but there's also the little moments, and I just think putting it all together right now is the key for Edric, because as Edric goes as a rotational player, even then, with the penalties he's taken, it's not in a great spot. So the floor with him is not even that great right now, but when that all comes together, the ceiling is going to be high. In the meantime, I think you're okay with the floor.
Yeah, we only see games, but they always say that the games are a reflection of what you're doing in practice. So if that's what he's doing in games, that's probably what he's doing in practice as well. And I don't know, they might have a Ty League. Caden McDonald's getting first-round mocks right now. They might have it. And Ty League said it himself that he's just a mini-me.
They might not have a tie, though.
That's what's probably missing right now. And maybe Tywan Malone might be their tie. So they might have a tie in a Ty League. One's just named Caden and one's name is Tywan Malone. I think overall you're happy with the defensive tackle depth. Sure. Even if Edric kind of figured out, and he's in his second year, we got to remember, he's still been at this position for less than a year. So he's still learning some of these things, right? But some of the penalties, like the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, that's not you're learning a new position. That's just undisciplined football, which is what they're probably trying to coach out of him right now. I do think, though, this Minnesota game is a chance for Edric Houston to take a step forward because of how Minnesota plays some football. Now, Darius Taylor hasn't played since week 2. So who knows? Like BJ Fleck was talking Monday that they'll know by the end of the week whether or not Darius Taylor is going to play or not. But they do still have 2 other backs that they rely on there, while Drake Lindsey can throw it around the yard a little bit. But this is maybe an opportunity for these defensive tackles. I don't think we're questioning it anymore, but I do think this is an opportunity for this defensive tackles, this underbelly of the defense, which is the only questions we do have at this point, to validate and stamp itself as like, no, there are no flaws in this defense. Mm-hmm. And when you're looking for flaws, that's the only place there might be a flaw. But the way Caden McDonald is playing, the way Tywan Malone is played, the way Will Smith Jr. is playing in 10 to 15 snaps, if they can get Eddrick Houston going down the right path again, and Jason Moore can maybe find a little bit of a rhythm. He played in his first game. I don't know if he played, but he didn't play, but he was available for the first time this season. If those 2 can start heading down the right path as 2 highly rated recruits are in their second and third year in the program, this goes from 6 months ago we were calling it a weakness to 6 weeks ago we were like, okay, it's not a weakness, but is it a strength? So now it's a full-gone strength along with everything else with this defense. Get the text 614-350-3315, 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. Tell you, good time to get it, man. Good time to get it. You get the Minnesota game, and then you get, Illinois next week? It's a good time to get it. 2 former Big Ten West teams. Ohio State, man, at home, at night, for the first time in who knows how long against a Big Ten opponent.
Oh.
That's not.
There you go.
That's not. No, that's not what we're talking. That's not what anybody's ever talking about. I'm Steven. That's Andrew. Ohio alum, by the way, saying that. And Stefan, we'll see you after the game on Saturday.